Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us at this inaugural session. It's the inaugural session of Insider's Perspective, a 360-degree view. And today we're going to, we have amalgamated a really amazing set of people on our panel to do that 360-degree view of systemic and family constellation. So we've chosen this for some very, very good reasons, which we'll be elaborating on for the next hour. I'd like to just first of all do what we always do here at SoulAdvisor, which is to acknowledge country. And for those of you that aren't in Australia, it might be a bit of a foreign concept, but it's our way in this country of paying deep respect to country that we're here on. In my case, it's Yuin country and it's dawn. The sun's coming up over there in the bird forest. And also to pay respect to community and to culture, and most of all, to the custodians of this land that have walked this land since the beginning of time, since the first dawn, as we say around here, and looked after it and sung it up and loved it and connected with it. And it's something that we all give deep thanks for every day of our lives around here, the elders that have brought us here. And I'd like to invite you all just to spend 30 seconds with your eyes closed and to, in whatever way makes sense to you, to bring your attention and your reverence and your deep respect to the country that you're on, and feel into the ground beneath your feet and the sky above you, the waterways that run through and around, and those that have walked before you. No, not only your own lineage, but everybody that's looked after that land and lived their lives on the land, the community of our shared humanity. And with your eyes closed, feeling those unseen forces and allowing them to be here with us today. Thank you so much. Okay. And from here, having paid our respects to the unseen, I'd like to pay our respects very much to the seen. And we've got a beautiful lineup on our panel today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation, and hopefully we'll be able to bring a lot of attention to what systemic constellation is in this world of healing. So here we are. We're part of SoulAdvisor. We represent over 190 different modalities and counting. It seems a new modality pops up every day, and that's because we're in a deep state of need, of course, and a deep, deep requirement for healing if we're going to keep walking on this earth. So it's very, very no accident that we're bringing systemic constellation into the room today, because what an amazing field it is. And I'm going to ask everybody here to really deeply explore it, but just basically to say what an incredible field of really understanding that we walk alongside unseen forces and that together we're stronger. And I'd love to quote you, Stephanie, if I may, from your beautiful book, The Magic of Connection, which I've been back and through. It's become a little bit of an inspiration. So thank you. So you said emergence is undeniably a systemic principle of nature. Organisms that would achieve little or actually nothing on their own are constantly engaged in creating something greater. This applies to ants as much to humans. It applies to all organisms. Together we create something that would be unimaginable for us alone. And so I'm using that as a bit of an inspiration for what we're doing here today, to reach out, bring a lot of inspiration into this room, spread it around the world. And as we move now through with SoulAdvisor from not only systemic constellations to those other 189 modalities, that we are able to do the same thing and really, really strengthen our field. So thank you, everybody, for being here. And thank you, everybody who's come to listen. All right, so let's get started. Just a little bit of housekeeping. If you've got any questions, please pop them over there in the chat, or write them down, because we'll have 15 minutes at the end to ask what the question that's burning bright for you. So let's just see if we cover it anyway with our panel, because it's quite an extensive conversation. Let's start with you, Bill. So,
Okay.
if you don't mind, since you've been the longest standing person in the field here. So when we asked you to join, you were halfway up the Camino Trail, which is an amazing thing to be doing. And you've just told us you walked how many kilometers, miles?
I think if I translate this right, 498 kilometers or 315 miles, something in there, 315 miles.
Wow, what a journey! What a journey! So we're very, very glad you've come down off the mountain and been with us. So, yeah, so the very nature of this work is to really be alert and present, from the little that I understand of it. And I'm just wondering how many decades you've been in this business, and whether you're still learning at the same rate that you were initially. Because
That's a good question. I'll uh, decades. So I've been a psychotherapist for over 35 years. Constellations, I've been involved with constellations for 23 years. Uh, Am I still learning? I would say yes. There's always things that intrigue me, the things that I see other colleagues touch on, and I'll, get excited about that. Oh, I like that. Or what's happening here? And a lot of my colleagues, I use the analogy painting, they paint with a different brush, and oh, I like that brush stroke. I want to learn. I want to learn that, or I want to sit in a circle with somebody. Probably not at the same rate overall, because you get to a certain point and I like sitting in circles. Stephanie might know this. I just want to sit in a circle and be one of the people, but it's hard to do. It's hard to do that now. It's just hard.
you're known by too many. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's that. Yes, there's that. But it's just, I'm so busy with my own work, so it's hard to get out and go do that. But I try to follow people online, their social media, or YouTube. Somebody's offering something. So, but I would say I still like learning. I love learning new things, but at the same rate, probably not exactly.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
And now I'm going to swing over to Claudia, who lives here on the east coast of Australia, but is a Brazilian woman who has lived in Holland and has moved through just so many different phases and stages of work life and living arrangement. And oh, excuse me, apologies. Claudia, perhaps you'd like to tell us how it's been for you moving through all those places in the world, and how it affects, or what it's brought to you as your practice, in your practice as a systemic constellator. And then I'll get my voice back.
Thanks, Kate. I hope you can hear me now. Yeah, it's interesting. It's been an interesting journey for myself, which I from country to country and from culture to culture, and it also brought me to family constellations, looking for, walking through my own traumas and taking them from each country, but also experimenting, experiencing the ways in constellation, what it brings. So I noticed that going through these countries, I brought pieces of the systems, Stephanie, like each system, I took them with me. And you notice that in the field as well. And has been a blessing at one side, and also, maybe has caused me the challenges in my life, but it enriched my family constellation work.
Mm. I think, all of you go so deep with people. It's beautiful to have a bit of life behind you in order to bring that to the field when you're presenting. So thank you so much for joining us today. And my apologies for choking on a blueberry. And now, Kat, thank you so much for being with us. And the thing that stands out for me when I listen to what you've created out there, Kat, is how much you love this field and how much you're in love with what you're actually bringing with Systemic Constellation. And that enthusiasm seems to have bounced back to you 1,000-fold, many thousand, with the people that follow you and an ever-increasing social media following. And I just wonder, what do you think, like having been exposed to so many people, what is the single thing that most people are out there looking for in this work that you come across?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking that question. I think what really comes forward to my mind as you ask that is, in my community especially, everyone's looking for their authentic self, who they are behind all of the things that they've inherited. And they're looking for the sense of, do I still belong? Can I still be my authentic self and still belong in my family system and still be loved for who I am? And also navigate these things that I've inherited that I'm trying to work through. And I think that's beautiful because I think we're all on a journey of trying to discover who we are authentically. And I think we're also ever evolving. So it's this kind of like push and pull at times. But I think that at least, and also in my own experience, being a student, forever student of this work, is it allowed myself as well, my authentic self, to come forward once I started to unlayer those pieces that I naturally inherited from my ancestry. And so that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's definitely something that we find over here at SoulAdvisor too. You know, people are really searching for that sense of belonging and purpose and what they're doing here. And ancestral lineage healing, my goodness, it's just taken off like a storm. Okay.
Absolutely.
And now, Stephanie, energetically, I just love that you've emerged into this field from having been a painter. And I feel that, you know, you're painting something pretty big and amazing from what I can tell from this angle in this field. And I was really struck by your sense of, I guess, as I read through your book and I've talked to you a little bit of your inner eye, your sense that you're really developing something that is a whole painting. So with the Feld Institute and with Constellators International, you're contributing, and of course in your own personal work and everything else you do. You seem to have a big vision, a really, really big vision. So I'm going to once again bounce your own words back to you. So the vision behind the founding of an organization always carries a spiritual aspect and ideally possesses a grand dimension. This vastness is essential for us to develop numerous options that will guide us towards the future, a future that already exists as a vision within us. And I'm just going to ask you to share a little bit of your vision. I know we could spend the whole hour doing so, but just to touch upon it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kate. It's beautiful to hear my own books in English. They
Oh.
sound completely different from the German origin. Yeah. Yeah. It's easy to say the vision is we're all one. And this is such a challenging vision. And the question is, you know, what will be the mission? So what shall we do to make the vision come true? And it's at first we have to understand what we are confronted with when we talk about ourselves. Like Kat said, that people are busy with the questions about themselves, but the bigger question is, who are we together? Because as I said, as single organisms, we think we are very important, but we are not, because we can't reach anything without the others. And as soon as we come together and do something together, we create something bigger, which is a partnership, a family, an organization. And from Gestalt theory, we know it's an autonomous entity of its own. And we, as the ones who brought this entity into life, we are now the servants to make sure that this entity can survive and develop. So I think the work we have to do, the systemic work we have to do, is to again start thinking radically systemically, which doesn't happen at the moment, as we know, because I mean the let's say the extreme version of not thinking systemically is the autocratic governments we see all over the world. So they are the opposite of how shall we do it together. Yeah.
Yes.
But I think this is exactly the challenge we are all confronted with, even in our work, and maybe it's due to age. Definitely, it's also due to age. The perspective on that, because um, the I is not so important for me anymore. The we is very important. I know this is not true for my clients, but I'm quite demanding with them, saying, if you want to be, the degree of your personal development is proportional to the degree you are willing to see the truth. The simple question, who you are. There's nothing you can do or change or make better or improve. You are the way you are, and that's perfect. Because you are the way you are. Yeah. Otherwise, you would be different. So this is where I start in my work.
Thank you. That's a very, very big picture and a beautiful picture. And I, I applaud it. And it's exactly what we're doing here also at SoulAdvisor, because we're strong, and we can overcome the horror that's unfolding in the world in certain corners. Yeah. And celebrate the great things together. It's much more fun having a party when there's more people. Yes. So now I'm going to move straight into the subject matter so that we give people a bit of an understanding. I'm not quite sure what different walks of life people have come from into this room, but we're going to assume, that there's not much understanding yet of what systemic constellation is, or that we can always grow the understanding that we have, especially with such wise people in the room. So for the next 40 minutes or so, we're going to explore a number of big questions. And the first one of those is, what is a constellation? What is constellation? And what's the core language of systemic practice? So I guess what we're asking there is that constellation is as an outsider to the field, constellation is such a beautiful word, isn't it? It's so beautiful. And I would love to understand a little bit more about where that came from and why it's been chosen as a word. I'd also love to understand the words that you talk in secret language between each other when you're talking as systemic constellators. What are some of those words? So let's go there. Anybody can answer.
Bill, are you going to start?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's two things I hear. Constellations also refers to the method that was created by Bert Hellinger. When we think of constellations, we think of an arrangement in the sky of stars that people have given names to over the years, like Orion's belt or the Pleiades or things. But so there's an organization, a connection, and there's the method. But I think, and I could be wrong with the history, but it actually, a lot of what Bert gathered over the years came out of him attending different facilitators, some here in the United States. And he slowly started to ask the question, I think he was witnessing someone working with families. Well, what happens if I had a group of people who weren't family with the same energy emerge? And then out of his work, Steph, you can correct me, Kat, he developed certain principles about the system. Like the system pours a vacuum. So if someone is excluded, which he focused on a lot, the system will fill it over the years. Everyone has a right to belong to the system. Regardless of their personal behavior, they all belong to the system. And in constellation work, we see that when that's askew, or the person's been excluded or shunned in some places, it creates an imbalance. And part of the work was bringing balance back to the system. And in the balance, he talked about giving and receiving. Parents come first. life comes through our parents to us. When that's askew, the system gets out of balance. Um, and then there's all different layers within that idea. So it's very systemic oriented in that when the system is out of balance, it needs to be repaired in some way, or someone in the present moment or someone in the present generation will carry the imbalance within them, and it'll show up somehow. And again, there's many different layers and many different ideas within that.
A rich field for exploring. Yeah. And so how would anybody else like to contribute to how they see the word constellation and the language that you use?
Yeah, I could say I would give quite a mechanical answer. So constellare, the Latin word means putting together, right? Putting it together in a field, constellare. So and as Bill said initially, the term comes from astrology. A constellation is a structure of stars that are in a certain relation to one another and create a certain energy, right? So we took the term to do something in the field very physically. As I said, we are, as single organisms, we are nothing. So we are constantly elements of one system or the other. So with my partner, I am in a partnership constellation. With my son, I'm in the mother-son constellation. With my company, I'm in a business constellation, so to say. And these constellations, these elements within a system, they create an energetic relationship. Something happens between them. And if you change their positions, what happens? Start to change because the position changed. So it is a resonance space. A system is a resonance space for influencing one another all the time. So it's not Bill on the one hand and Stephanie on the other hand, but it's Bill and Stephanie entering a resonance space, and I influence him and he influences me at the same time. It's not logic because I do something, he reacts, but it's interconnected. So what we do, we take representatives for the client and the elements of the system he wants to look at, and we position these representatives in a field. So in a way, we build a copy of the original energetic field, and people start reacting in the same way as the originals, right? This is a quantum physics, how do you say?
Phenomena.
Yeah, exactly. And now, as we ask people, how do you feel here? These people are not bound to the story they stand in, but only to the structural energetic system. So they can very well give us information about what is felt on this very position and what changes when the position is changed. So we understand a lot about the system. And the clients can stand outside and look at themselves, how they stand in the field and look to the world. We call them the second grade observer. They observe themselves, how they look to the world. And that gives us the possibility to erase the blind spot and all of a sudden see what we're doing there, or why a certain relation is in this way. And I would also add that constellation work has been done by humanity all through the centuries. It started very early in the indigenous cultures, and they also, like systemic constellations, are convinced that there is a one time for the past, the present, and the future. This is only our idea of time. but it all happens at the same time. So we are connected to ancestors, and their influence to us is very strong, and our influence to them as well, because we're living in the same time. I know it's not understandable for our rational mind, but this is what we see in the field.
Yeah, it's so beautiful the way you explain it. And my experience with Claudia doing a little bit of this work, which was truly remarkable, by the way, Claudia, is that that's exactly as you speak it, Stephanie. So Claudia happens to be our most popular therapist on the whole of SoulAdvisor. And that's because of her own genius, but it's also because people are so drawn to this work and have such an intuitive understanding, I think, that systemic constellation and the fact that it is brave enough to bring the field to people's attention when people are together in a group. Sure, I mean, the field is brought to your attention if you're doing a Reiki one-to-one session or massage, or perhaps many of the other things, tarot reading, etc., that we have there on our system in SoulAdvisor. But this modality is so brave because it actually brings everybody together to admit that at the same time. And so I wonder, Claudia, whether you've got anything to contribute to how you feel constellation therapy works, or what Stephanie's talking about, that it brings in the unseen.
Well, I think Bill has touched, he explained very well, much better than I can, Bill, the way it's set up. And Stephanie's really good at putting it in a logical European order. So thanks for that. I'll come in with my Brazilian side now. It comes, from a different angle. But I think, there's many ways this field that is between the people has been trying to be explained by scientists. Rupert Drake, I think his name is Drake, the morphic field. Dan Cohen is working on a paper trying to explain that with quantum physics. What, like Bill said, I myself still don't know how it exactly works. Because besides this level, there is, I feel, when I do this work, multiple levels, even on, like you said, ancestral levels. But the other thing is also, it touches also the soul of the people, the clients. So besides the systems they are touching, it's also on a deeper level, the soul area that is being touched there. And I don't know how to call that, but that is coming into the systems as well for me when I work with people. And each time when you do this work, I learn from my clients a lot, because I feel like every time when I do a constellation, I'm being touched as well in a way that it still opens up areas for me that I think like incredible, the depthness of it. So, yeah.
It must be an incredibly inspiring kind of field to teach in, to have at your fingertips. Yeah. And Kat, you work with people all over the world. I think from what I can tell, you do a lot of online work. Is that true? Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
I can't imagine how this all works as an online modality, but does it work?
It does work. The beauty is the field is, as everyone has mentioned, so communicated so well today. It's these times that are existing all at the same time. The energy is so beautiful to work with. It's an honor to work with the energy. And so yeah, it's I instead of human representatives in my work, we use pieces of paper, which comes with its challenges at times, and it also is a phenomena of its own. But yeah, it's a really unique way of being able to touch people in many different parts of the world who resonate with that style of constellation work.
With paper. There you go.
Yeah. So each paper will essentially represent mom, dad, grandparent, war, all the different pieces that we're working with. Thank you, Sarah. Hi. So yeah, it's really unique. Like I said, it comes with its strengths. It's everyone gets on this paper, and I've had clients who say, I'm not intuitive. I don't really understand this. And I say, don't worry. You just stand on the paper. You tell me how you feel. That's all you have to do. Don't overthink it. And people tap in and tune in really quickly, and they're shocked by themselves. Oh my God, how did I know that about my grandmother? And I'm like, because you're in this beautiful field, this phenomenology. You don't have to think, just feel what's coming up. But then if people struggle with having a regulated nervous system, or they're in their head a lot and they overthink, which I am very much guilty of that at times, it's harder to work with the papers because you're having to rely on your own experience, and that can get a little staticky at times. So, yeah, I think there's pros and cons to it.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I'd love to just ask now, moving on, how you all feel that systemic constellations work differently than traditional therapeutic approaches. We're in a state of huge evolution in the therapeutic field, I think, from what I can tell. It's really interesting to watch the SEO and where people are tending to want to explore as opposed to how they were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So how do you panelists feel that constellations differs from traditional therapeutic approaches that we might have taken to the ailment of being human?
Well, I think for me, many things here. So in any traditional therapeutic relationship, it's a relationship.
Mm.
So it's you and the client. And you build some sort of witnessing, holding space. So in constellations, and I do a lot of groups. So in a group, mostly live, obviously during the pandemic, it was online. There's something about, I think, the field of the group, the witnessing of the group, the holding space that creates some semblance of safety. So there's that level. I was taught by one of my mentors that there's 3 ways to heal in a constellation is you do your own piece, you represent, or you witness. Um, so I think there's something, and maybe this touches on what Stephanie says. Most indigenous people, when we were all living near caves, everything was done in a circle. The gathering, the healing, talking about the problems, the issues, and I think that's something that's still in us as human beings when we gather in a circle, regardless of the modality. Uh, and then if someone is working, the circle holds whatever's coming up. They hold that person's field, uh, and I can't put words on it, but there's something about standing in front of your mother. Well, there's always something about standing in front of your mother. So, but, but there's something about that. I can finally feel it, or the anger comes, or the emotions come, or the grief comes, and it's finally being held. And this could happen in individual therapy, but there's something about that I think allows the client to finally release uh, in that moment, and that either tops off the healing or continues the healing and allows it to be.
Beautiful. So it's the field. It's like actually feeling safe within a group, more or less, which is a terribly unusual way to feel in a group as a human in the year 2025. People say that standing out in front of a crowd and talking is the nearest experience to death in terms of fear. So the fact that you, as practitioners, are able to create that safety in the field sounds like part of it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
No, let me respond to that. I get that a lot, and maybe Kat and Stephanie, it's so safe, it feels so safe. I think it's co-created. It's not, I mean, I bring something, we all bring something, but it's co-created. People will say, you create such a safe environment. I'm not the one doing it. We're all doing it. So there's something about you're picking up maybe something from me, and then I'm picking something up from you, and across the room, and people are coming. So the safety, I think, is energetically, the circle is creating the safety. That's my experience.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. How about you others? What do you feel? How do you feel it differs, constellations, from other forms of therapy?
Yeah,
I'll
I would
say,
like
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to add something to what Bill said, is the aspect that the groups we mainly work with have the character of mother. We say group is the mother. So what we experience in a group are the three fundamental needs we have, which is we need to be seen, to be loved, to be listened to. Second, we need to have a good place in the system. So in this group, we find a good place. And third, we need to be safe on this place or in this place. And these three aspects are given in the group because we are not acting on the cognitive level, on a two-dimensional level, but we're meeting on a level of how does it feel here? What do you perceive, right? And in perceiving comes a different human quality up. First of all, we have such a vast dimension of perception. We are given such a vast dimension of perception we hardly are aware of in our day-to-day life. And when we go into a group, even when it's for the first time, we realize that we know so much. And all of a sudden, we realize that we felt that before, but never took it serious on the cognitive level. Now we're taking it serious. So the individual is taken terribly serious and is so important for the process we're doing together, right? And I think this is a very important aspect because it's in this way it is really a holistic work because we use the body as a resonance space and say, tell me, tell me what you are feeling inside without knowing the story, just what you feel. Yeah? And I can say that you can see the beauty of people then. So all these groups are in a way there's a very tender quality in meeting and supporting one another.
Beautiful. I love that. And I love your explanation of bringing it out so that it's then taken seriously because we're creatures of the brain. So, to take that from the feeling realm and the unspoken into spoken is such a fabulous thing. I love Dan Cohen's saying that I found along the way when I was exploring. Family constellations are a profound method for making invisible systemic forces visible so meaningful change can occur naturally. I love that because it will, we'll all tend towards healing if given the opportunity. Yeah.
And I would say I wouldn't say that constellation is a method. I would say it is a language. It is a multidimensional language, and it's the only language that can express the interaction of energy going through a systemic structure.
Wow, that's a profound thought. Kat or Claudia, would you like to participate in that this section?
I'll give Kat the first word because you were already up there, Kat.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you, Claudia. No, I mean, I can't follow up better than what Bill and Stephanie said, but I think, pregnancy brain, sorry.
Pregnancy.
I don't remember what I was going to say. Claudia, go ahead. I don't remember what I was going to say. It just left me like that.
It's still out there in the field, Kat. It's all right.
It's somewhere over there.
Laughing around.
Yeah. So I think for me, I'm just contributing to this discussion is that when I was a client for myself, I sometimes felt safer with one facilitator than somebody else. With one of the facilitators, I wouldn't expose myself so completely because I didn't feel safe with them. So in this way, for me, the facilitator is also very important to hold that safety with your client.
Yeah. And how do you think you establish what is the quality of a constellator in bringing together a field or a group that makes them safe?
Well, I think it's first of all what is to acknowledge what is there, like really listening to the client, and not trying to go to the solution, not wanting to, give the solution that the client wants to hear, but really be open to what's there and to see what the field reveals and then hold that space, but also not pushing the clients when they're not ready on their journey yet. Like maybe there's more in this field and you can feel that maybe already, but the client might not be ready to take those steps. So you gently, go with the client on their journey where they are ready to go. You don't push them.
Beautiful.
So that's for me is safety for my client in the first place. So I want to make sure my client is safe and allowing them in the field to go as on their journey when they're ready.
The unfolding. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Unfolding, yeah.
I wonder if we could just move along a little to the ecosystem of application, because you're all working in very different ways from what I can tell. So we're talking, when we talk about this field of work, as working in the personal, the familial, the cultural, or the systemic. And are they all the same? Is it the same principles applying all the way down through these different systems? Or does it feel, can you define the differences, I guess?
I would
It's a
like to
difficult
start.
question first.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to start because I work as well in the organizational as also in the, let's call it the therapeutical field. And of course, these systems are completely different from one another. They have, they all have certain orders, which in family constellation we call the orders of love, and the orders have to do with hierarchy. They have to do with belonging and the conditions of belonging that are naturally different in an organization, because the condition for belonging is a contract, and you don't have the right to belong only as long as you have the contract, but not when it's finished. That's completely different in a family. So you are born into the right to belong. But these orders are in a way differently expressed in different systems. That's one thing. And you, like in my book, The Magic of Connection, which is about organizations. Of course, the magic of what happens when you connect things works on completely different levels than in a private system, where it's only about the people private connection to whatever the subject is. Whereas in organizations, it's even more multidimensional, because you have the factual aspect as well, and you have all the requests of the organization, and you have to be able to interchange the elements sometimes very quickly. So what I would say is, when the ecosystem says there is systemic intelligence, which means there is systemic rules for all these systems, yes. To understand the specific rules in the systems you are working in is one of the big preconditions. So you should be an expert in the field where you work, like Bill as a therapist when he works in the family field or in the systemic individual field. And me as an economist when I go into economy, because you should know what organizations, big companies are confronted with when they're doing this or that. So you should be an expert. You should understand how systemic intelligence is expressed in these fields, and then you should be a master in constellation work. So it's quite, it's quite a challenge, and it has to happen on quite a high level. But you can applicate constellation in all systems. I would say that there's no system that you cannot work systemically in.
Fantastic. So from what I'm understanding, the set of principles can be applied to no matter how big or small the system is. And do you find yourselves seeing systems in the supermarket when you go shopping? Is it a set of eyeballs that you can't let go of?
Kat,
No, we don't.
you get that. You take that one, Kat.
Me? Well, I work interestingly with systems because I work as an intuitive medium. So I sometimes am seeing beyond what we see just on the outside of systems. And so sometimes I'm looking at things like Claudia said so beautifully from the soul perspective. So I think everything, and really it ties into what everyone is saying, is that you're one individual within a system, and at any moment in time, you're moving through some kind of system. Um, the roles that people hold at a grocery store and the hierarchy and the order and the structure. I mean, yes, it's all a system, right?
Mm.
But yeah, I think from the lens of somebody who works as an intuitive medium, it's interesting to be able to see sometimes the wires that are happening on the back end that create the systems, and then you kind of get a peek into the unseen a little bit. That's
Yeah,
how I would answer that.
I love that. I mean, I love that you call it wires, and wires automatically brings up the concept of untangling. So, like that seems to be what some of your work is all about, all of you. So, in bringing some kind of clarity, again, another quote from Ursula Frank, this time: constellation work allows us to see the larger picture and take our place within it, restoring balance where it has been lost. So, I guess, to your point, Claudia, it's not about diagnosing, but allowing the field to heal itself. Is that what I'm understanding? So as the person who's kind of running the session, I guess, or facilitating, if that's the word, you're not actually bringing your understanding of it to bear so much as allowing something to evolve and creating the space for that to evolve. And just like a knot, when you're sitting there unpicking it, if you create space within that knot, it starts to reveal itself and unfold naturally. So would that be fair as a way of
Yeah,
explaining it?
yeah. You just like I love dancing. So it's like almost going with the music, like allowing your body and go with the dance, follow
Mm,
the dance. You
mm,
don't push it, you don't try to force it because our ego wants it or because you want to satisfy the customer. You just follow the dance and the music.
mm. That must be incredibly interesting. Yes, in a family, yes, in a community, but I'm wondering, Stephanie, how that applies when you go into a business situation. I think people are becoming, much more aware of healing and unseen forces, but where they want an outcome and they're used to a hierarchical structure, perhaps. What's the fit between what you're bringing, this beautiful field, this beautiful understanding, and coming into a business? How do you position it?
Mm. Well, we have to be honest and say it is very difficult to bring this work into the business field, especially when it is about business and making money, right?
Yeah.
Because the rules are very clear there and not very systemic. Because the question is who takes the most, right? And that's not a systemic question. So we would disturb them in doing their work. But there's a lot of other organizations that are not for for profit, but for purpose. And
Mm.
of course, you have to know again the rules. It's like a melody. You have the notes, you have the elements, and now you want to change the melody without destroying it. So you have to know a lot about music, and you start adjusting elements and see how it works when you put this here and there.
Mm.
I think the most important aspect, more in organization than in the private field, although it's also there, is the dysfunctional structures because of disconnection,
Mm.
because of departments, which in the word says it's departed from the rest, because of departments, because of hierarchy levels that are not talking to one another, because of
Mm.
um, different interest groups within an organization, because of not really being connected with the clients, because of not connecting quality aspects with production aspects and so on. So it's all, as I said in my book, it's all about connection. And that's interesting because on the individual level, the disconnection makes us ill. You know, the disconnection from people to the systems they belong to, the disconnection within ourselves of certain levels of trauma, split parts that have to rejoin, the disconnection when you are in a partnership and coming close makes you afraid, and then you dissociate, and then you just talk about what to do for cooking or whatever. So it's happening all the time, but it's happening with different content, so to say.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
But what I as a fist rule, what I hardly ever do, I hardly ever work personally in organization, even not in team development. I work on the level of functional elements to not kind of how's the word, shame people, not to kind of presenting them as an individual to the group, but only treat them as a functional element within this group. And that makes it, of course, so much easier in a certain way. And then when I come to a point where I see, oh, this is very personal, and he's kind of mixing his boss with his father, I say, this seems to be something personal. We can talk about that later, but not here.
Mm. Wow, that's a fabulous rule of thumb, actually, really, because it tends to be in that kind of a structure that things are inherently unsafe, if you have a hierarchy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Other than in the private circles, of course, right?
Mm.
It's in this perspective, it's nearly the opposite. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, Bill, yes. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to circle back, 'cause we were talking about groups and safety before, just to add that it's a lot of work that just comes up for me and I do it. My experience, and it's more anecdotal, but it might be written down somewhere, is especially in longer groups, like 5 or 6-day retreats when everybody's settled in.
Mm.
As the group becomes safe, the body starts to speak.
Mm.
What I've noticed is, uh there's lots of books written about the body. The body holds it all. The body keeps the score. I think as the group becomes safer, the body wants to say don't listen to Stephanie. I know the truth here. I've been experienced. And so Stephanie's body will start to do something, and she may be it may be totally unconscious. There'll be some very specific movement, not just, talking this way, some specific movement that needs to be seen.
Mm.
And that seems to come up in my groups a lot. And usually it opens the constellation. My mother, but something's happening that the body wants to be recognized, and it might not have anything to do what the person is complaining about or sharing or anything. And that seems to happen a lot. And then it goes in a whole nother direction.
It is a mystery, and you can't but keep learning, can you, Bill, really?
No, and it's fascinating just to really pay attention to the body, especially if there's been a lot of personal trauma. It's something, and sometimes it's generational. It's something needs to be
Mm.
expressed. And
Mm.
I notice as the group becomes safer, more congenial with each other, and the body says, "Oh, here's my time. Here's my time. Here's my time.
Wow.
I'm
Wow.
Here. Listen, I'm trying to tell you something."
Hello. Yeah, fabulous. I love that. It's just it's something that I've really learned today, how holistic this discipline is, really. It's not just a mind thing.
It's can I just the Bill, you just did it yourself. What I find really beautiful at the end of a session when the body starts to speak is that almost invisible little breath that comes out, the little release. And when you see that, you know that there's something shifting in that body. It's almost invisible, but you can notice people go out at the end and the body releases. And you just, yeah.
Yeah, and I would add language too, because I'm noticing, and Stephanie knows from Gestalt, we pay a lot of attention to the language. Someone sits down with you and says something, I feeling this, or I grew up in a very this kind of household. Okay, some of the words are in the vernacular, but when someone says something, and I'll be a little exaggerated here, someone says like, I feel like I'm going to be annihilated. That's an interesting choice of words. So I get really curious about that word. Is it in the system? Was there war? Did someone have to run? Annihilation is a big, so that's an example to really, what I've noticed is to really pay acute attention to language.
Wow. Yeah.
May I just add something to what Bill said about the length of the groups? Yeah, because this is also my experience. When it's more than 3 days, it starts become very kind of holy and spiritual and very deep going, and the body speaks, and maybe we need that time, and I see that as one of the big challenges, because people cannot normally cannot stay for 5 days and dive into these groups. But
Yeah.
the experiences that the 5-day long groups were the best I ever had. Yeah, because things happened I could have never thought of, and in these groups I learn a lot. Although I'm already since the 1990s in the field, yeah, but in these groups I learn mostly about myself, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So the morphic resonance just increases the more you're in each other's physical company. I'm sure it's also true online, but, surely looking into the window to the soul, it gets deeper. Yeah. I want to just move us along a little bit, if I could, because, you've just mentioned you've been doing it since the 1990s, Stephanie. I know from watching my friend Claudia how much work goes into continuing professional development, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd love to know a little bit about what, and I think, I may be wrong, but it seems to be with every other profession in the healing at the moment, that there's a professionalization, which means that where before you could go and do a 6-month, dive into naturopathy and put your shingle out, now it's 4 years in Australia, et cetera. Everything seems to be really, really getting more in depth and more covered by bodies of knowledge. So how does one go about studying systemic constellation? What does it involve?
A lot of work. Yeah, and Stephanie, I'll let you answer this, because there's no organization here for training, right, Kat? We don't have an organization. And every state in the United States has different Department of Health structures for therapeutic work, but we don't have any criteria here. I know some countries do. I think England might, Germany might, Sweden might, but there's no structure in order to, and you start here and you finish here, and you're an official facilitator.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really up to us. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. When it started in the 1970s, they were all very, very high experts in the field, because they were doctors, they were psychotherapists, gestalt therapists, and so on. So they already knew what they were doing. They were entering a different field, but the background was safe, right? And then people came into these workshops, and they were kind of, oh, wow, this is wonderful. And then they started doing it themselves without this background. And this really created some injuries, really, and quite dangerous injury when it came to trauma work or re-traumatization, and so on and so on. And yes, true, it was the Hellinger organization in Germany that was the first one who said we need to do quality management, because constellator is not a profession, it's a language you're working in. So you can't have a regulated study or education. So we have to create that for ourselves. This is what we try to do in Constellators International, to do like an ISO oriented quality management, saying, did you learn something? What is your professional background? What's the professional language you talk before you start working with constellations? How many years did you learn? How many different teachers did you have? What else did you learn? How many years have you done it? How many hours do you spend? And so on. So we're not talking on the content level, but only on the quality structure, quality saving level. And then definitely I'm from the time or from my experience being a trainer, I would say that you need to learn at least 2 years, which would be like 200 hours, to get a first idea and to have the chance to meet all your own aspects, your own themes that you have and that you are not aware about, so that you don't kind of step into a trap when you work with a client, or kind of project your problems onto the client and so on. So, and then I would say another 5 to 10 years of doing the work, which doesn't mean you can't work with other people then, but you should mainly do it in peer groups and very slowly, start to integrate. That's, to my understanding, it's different to those who already learn systemic therapy or Gestalt therapy, because these therapies come from humanistic psychology and they are already quite close in their mindset. We have a complete different mindset than the normal psychotherapies. We are not working on the cognitive and analytical level. We're working on the opposite.
Right. Wow. Yes, it's you can only get better. The more you think about it, the more you live it, the more you do it, of course. And I think what you've just touched on there, the community in yoga, we call it the Sangha, and the mentorship, so that it's continual discussion and self-correcting, self-learning, self-growing. Surely that's what life is all about anyway, but it's so important to have it, isn't it, within the discipline that you've chosen, to find those pathways and that holding. I'm going to open it up, because we are on 7:05, just to see if anybody might have any questions out there as we continue to talk now. So please bring yourself on live, or put your hand up. I'm not very good at the hand thing, but or put something into the comments if you have a question for our panelists. So I'm just watching out. eyes everywhere. Claudia, you're a panelist, but yes.
Oh, no, I don't want to. Sorry, I just was trying to look for something. Did I put my hand up? Sorry.
Put your hand up.
Okay, no, I put it down. No,
Yeah.
sorry.
No drama. So this is open conversation for everybody. If you would like to come in on the conversation at any point, please do. We'll just keep going for another 6 or 7 minutes. So now is your moment if you'd like to ask a question. But meanwhile, can I kind of have a little chat about the quality in the field? I know, I'm just using my own example of what happened with yoga, which is very similar to what happened, Stephanie, sounds like, with constellators, it was a very big undertaking to become a yoga teacher. You had to sit at the foot of the guru. You weren't allowed to teach breath work or meditation, etc. For the first few years, it was all about being of service. And then you were given, bit by bit, you were slowly introduced to things you could do or could contribute to the community. And then eventually, you were elevated to the role of teacher. And then it got people were very enthusiastic, and I think that this information about yoga is so fundamental, and we're desperately in need of healing. So bringing it out into the field was fantastic. Like it became like a jungle out there. People were doing weekend yoga teaching courses, etc. Things that were just fantastic, that everybody's putting they're getting started with it. But there really was no holds or bars on the whole thing, and it was dangerous. People were breaking pieces of them physically and mentally. And I just wonder where you feel you're at now. I know that there's been a real professionalization that's now gone on in yoga to hold that and to make sure that the mentorship is in order. But where are you at as a field?
Well, I can only talk about Constellators International. That's the organization that I founded for especially this quality management. And what we really at is a bit like the International Coaching Federation, because they had the same problem. Everyone called themselves coach, and all of a sudden, every housewife and every secretary and everyone could coach. Everyone became a coach, and they started a quality um, management effort and founded the International Coaching Federation. They set up a set of rules. They collected from the colleagues, ideas about what you have to learn, what you have to teach, and so on and so on. And this is what we're doing at the moment. I'm writing books about that, about teaching what needs to be taught. At the moment, I'm writing a book step by step, day by day, hour by hour, how you build a 2-year training. And I explain every step, every exercise you do, and so on, so that people have an idea of how you can do it. And then when we have a certain degree of where we say, okay, this seems to be a good idea, let's put this as a first training, then we will put it up in our academy at CI. And then we offer people that there's certain training pieces that have a quality level which is proven by a team of experts, that they can offer their training in the academy. So that I want to kind of support those colleagues who do a serious work and who offer good training. So and as you know, we are offering international recognition for constellators and trainers. We call them constellators, although it's not an English term, but for the rest of the world, someone who does constellations is a constellator. So they all understand what we mean when we say constellator. Yeah, about 80% don't understand what you mean when you say facilitator, because it doesn't make sense in our language. So constellation and constellator seem to be a good fit. So this is why we call them. And these, again, these recognitions are only asking, as I said, about, your efforts to do quality work. And it also asks you about your contribution to the development of the work, because we are very interested in people who are not only having their groups, but contributing so that we can all learn and we can all share and so on. And what we also do from Constellates International, we call ourselves CI. We're doing biannual congresses in Malta. The second one will be in May. And we invite, of course, from our perspective, the top of the pops, so that people can see what good work is. And then we invite all the others so that they can show their work, they can learn from one another. We can find hidden gems and see whether we can support them. We can build networks, invite one another, so that people invite you to go to another country and show your work there. So that brings a certain movement in the field.
Beautiful. Wow. It's just so fabulous to hear all of that, actually, because it can only get stronger. With that scaffolding.
And I mean, I know that Bill does it all the time. He's constantly traveling around the world and showing his work. And that's ever so important. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that you can see what can be done with this work and people can learn from him.
Yeah, beautiful. And Kat, you're pregnant, which is, how pregnant are you? Are you very pregnant?
I'm still I'm at the end of my first trimester.
Okay, all right. You're looking,
Thank you.
Looking very rosy and well.
Thank you. Luckily it's been fairly mild, so.
Okay. So you're not gonna be traveling anywhere fast and furiously for a little while, but, bringing it to bear onto the screen for people and having people who wish to stay in their pajamas, thank you, whoever it was who was staying in their pajamas. Oh, it was Moni, yes. It's a great way to do this kind of work as well in the comfort of your own home, and I would love to know from you, because you're a bit younger than the others. How has it felt for you in terms of learning? What's your pathway in?
Mm.
It is good.
Well, I'm lucky. I'm gonna be joining Bill in LA, in April for one of his, in-person groups, which I'm really, really looking forward to that.
Mm.
Just like to be able to learn from different people and learn, I did 1 year of training with a woman named Carrie Gagne, and it was very her style. She's also an intuitive medium, so we kind of meshed with our way of doing this work, but, um, for me, learning has not only been about family constellation, it's also been doing Dr. Gabor Mate's compassionate inquiry. How can
Mm.
we hold space and compassionately look at the family system? And also, I wanted to mention this earlier, from the millennial perspective, and I'm going to go there because I think
Carry
that's
on.
why I'm here. Um, we're so, and this is so true about millennials. We're so self-focused.
Mm,
And especially we're in that chapter of life where we're trying to figure out who we are,
mm,
how do we fit in, what's our identity, what did we inherit from the past, where are we going in the future? And
mm,
so I think that my ability to be able to speak to that experience has been really unique online.
mm,
But then, as everyone else has been saying, and really the purpose of family constellation is to be able to hold space for the yes, you are this unique individual, and you're a part of this huge group, this huge lineage of
mm,
strengths and challenges and gifts and blessings and learnings and all of these amazing things. It doesn't have to always be negative.
mm,
So that's a big way to answer your question, but it's
mm,
just really continuing to stay curious, get into different kinds of trainings, learn from different people's perspectives. And
mm,
then every time I get excited about something, I just pop online and talk about it. And
mm,
I just let that be the flow.
mm.
So that's my way of doing it.
Mm. Oh, thank you. It's obviously having huge resonance out there, and it's just so important to be doing the stage of life that you're at. We shouldn't expect kids to sit down at a desk all day when they're 6 years old, etc. So, it changes, doesn't it? And doing this part of life as a millennial really, really well means that you're fully integrated and really have done the deep questioning that allows you to then be in my dotage. Where you're giving back, like that's what happens when you're 50. Suddenly you're the crone, and here we are. Yeah. So I think it's so important to recognize those stages of life and really thank you for what you're bringing to it. Yeah. Claudia, do you want to throw anything in to this one?
I think it's great that we have the European way of bringing this work to a higher level with books and a very good found missing here in Australia when I started learning about this work. And I was trying to find people who, in a way that could show me these steps bit more structured, a bit more educated books, etc., etc. So bringing that all together and having a certain level of quality towards it, working towards it is fantastic.
Mm,
I did a lot of my training also in Europe because that for me brought both sides together. And I think just hearing Kat is also fabulous that that other people younger, maybe may I say that, start to explore this field
mm,
because a lot of times we handle the people when they're at a later stage in life, the elder people, but it's also great that younger people can become aware of all this work out here. I do think it is very important for facilitators to have a good education in family constellations, but also do the work on themselves, like Stephanie was saying before we touch a lot of the clients.
mm. Beautiful. Well, I want to thank you all for doing justice to your field, really. It's been very enlightening for me. I feel a lot wiser. And I hope that everybody who joined us also feels like that, and all those that are going to now see your recording and hear your words of wisdom. I'm wondering if there's any last comments that any of you would like to make before we close a little later than we thought we would.
I just want to thank Mark for getting up so early. He's one of my good.
Thanks, Mark.
Good job, Mark. Good job.
Thanks, Mark.
And Tracy also. Thanks, Tracy.
Yeah.
Just thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think together we're stronger. You know, as Claudia says, we've got the wisdom of European heritage, and then we have the freshness of the young American enthusiasm, and then we have, you know, whatever we bring to it from here. And I think if we can keep stretching these hands across the ocean, and we can, you know, invite everybody who's got an interest in this field to turn up at your event, Stephanie, then we can just get stronger and stronger. So thank you very much, everybody, for being here, and good night, or have a great day, or wherever you are in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having
Thank you,
us.
Kate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye.